All right, today we're talking about Ijexá, and to answer the question, what is Ijexá, we also have to answer the question, what is Afoxé? A lot of musicians use these terms interchangeably. If you see a tune that says Ijexá or Afoxé at the top, you're probably playing the same style. But some books I've read say that Ijexá is a musical style and Afoxé is more of a cultural tradition. I'm not 100% sure since I've seen so many reputable sources use the term so many different ways. So I'm going to stick with Ijexá here for this whole video. Ijexá comes from candomblé, which is a religious, cultural, and musical tradition from the Yoruba people from Nigeria. In Brazil, you're going to quite often see it in Bahia, and one of the most notable groups playing Ijexá would be the Filos Gigantes. The common percussion instruments we're going to see are the agogo, the atabaques, and then the Afoxé, which is also an instrument. And if you change the X to a CH, which you'll see it spelled that way sometimes, we see it's the linguistic cousin of Afoxé, right? Our kabasa, this LP instrument, which is their version of beads on a gourd, essentially. So we can kind of see why we're getting in this linguistic trap a little bit, and that's why we're sticking with Ijexá for this video. To start with, I want to show you what it sounds like with a full ensemble playing. Now, please note with the instrumentation on this, I don't own all the instruments necessary to play this traditionally, so I kind of mixed and matched. You'll see some blocks and some other instruments to fill in the sounds that we need. From this example, I want you to take away two things. The first is the bell pattern, or in this case, the woodblock pattern. That's kind of the basic clave type pattern that we have for this groove. And the other thing we want to notice is the surdo or the bass pattern, which is just beat two and the and. And in this clip, you'll notice that the vibraphone just played the bell pattern, and that's because there was a separate bass part being played as well. What we're going to do is figure out how to put those together to play the groove by ourselves on the vibraphone. So what we're going to have to do is play the bell pattern as best we can and make sure that we get a low note on the to and. The most important part about this is the to and, that bass. If that bass isn't there, then it really doesn't sound right. If you just play the bell pattern by itself without that lower note on to and, it doesn't have the same feel. So we're going to always make sure that we hit that to and. So even if we do a variation, we're still going to make sure that to and is there. Now sometimes I like to switch up the way I get the bass. Instead of just doing a root note or a bass note, I'll just play the full chord, kind of use my right hand as the bell pattern and my left hand as the bass, but not just bass notes, it's just the chord voicing I'm using. We can do the same thing, but open up the chord voicing a lot. One last thing to note is I'm kind of keeping the bass note static on all of these. I'm not moving it around. You will hear sometimes bass notes go root fifth motion and move around more with more complex chord progressions. I don't do that much on vibraphone. If I'm on marimba, I might because I have more room. But because of the limited range of the vibraphone and I don't want to get too high, I typically keep the bass notes static. As far as other resources to learn more about the Ijexá, I'm mainly going to point you to this academic paper I found on the Yoruban tradition and how it made its way through into Brazilian popular music. I think knowing the history of the music you're playing is important, and it's a really good paper, relatively easy read, and I think you'll learn a lot from it, and I'm not an expert in that aspect of this, so I figured pointing you to that would be very helpful. The same guitar books we've used before do have portions on Ijexá, and they're pretty helpful, but to be honest, I mostly just kind of listened until I found something that I thought sounded about right, using the limitations of the Vibraphone as best I could. So what I'm going to do is also put a playlist down below of a bunch of tunes that are in Ijexá. And if you listen, I think you'll kind of agree with me that it's pretty clear how this is supposed to go together. And if you use these tactics on the Vibraphone, everything should work out just fine. All right, I hope that helps. Please go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Let me know if there are any styles you want me to do, maybe something I missed that I can make a video on in the future, because I've only got a couple more left planned from my original list. Also, let us know if there are any good Ijexá tunes that you know of, so myself and anybody else watching can learn about a new tune. And finally, don't forget to go to ericmartinpercussion.com. You can pick up a book or some sheet music, and that obviously really helps me out as well. And I will see you on the next one.